And welcome back to the JoAnne Powell Show. I am JoAnne. We are talking about, in the United States, there is a gun violence epidemic. Joining me to talk about that is ER Doctor, Dr. Wayne Moore. You are from Nashville, Tennessee. You have been doing emergency medicine for quite a while.
30 years.
30 years. You have your own urgent care clinic, the More Life Urgent Care Clinic, and also you work at Nashville General Hospital in their emergency room. Before the break, we were talking about background checks. We're going to talk about that, and then we're going to go into some of your experiences.
Yes. Well, the other thing that background checks really help are domestic violence deaths on females. That study in Minnesota found out that if you had regular background checks, deaths of females from domestic violence would be cut in half.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, and deaths of police officers or gun shootings. And here in Los Angeles, I think we had a police officer that was just killed this week. Those deaths would be reduced by half. And firearms, gun trafficking would be reduced by half. So background checks would essentially knock out 3 different areas that everybody would agree needs to be reduced as far as gun deaths.
And then the one thing that kind of everybody is like talking about is if you're on the no-fly list, you should not be able to buy a gun.
No brainer.
Yeah.
No brainer. If you are on the terrorist no-fly list, why should you be able to buy a gun? That's a no-brainer. But as we mentioned before, the NRA is giving $27 million a year to politicians. They have report cards on them. They impact on the voters with those politicians, and they have them in their pockets. But this is a no-brainer and should be enacted. And I support those congressmen like Representative Lewis from Georgia, who led that sit-in.
Yes, exactly. We did a show with that as well. And one thing, as an ER doctor, you see a lot coming in there. Do you have anything that kind of stands out?
Yeah, 2 cases that I really would like to mention. I did my residency and taught at Howard University in Washington, D.C., and we had a lot of gun deaths. And one of there were 2 gun deaths that I really want to share very quickly. One was it was probably the last case that I had when I was in the ER. It was a 15-year-old young male who was essentially dead on arrival. I'll never forget his parents as they walked into the ER. And we're talking about really middle class parents who have decent lifestyles.
Who grew up in a good home,
grew up in a good
situation.
Home. And then next walked in the door his pregnant fiance, who was he was 16, she was 15, and I saw that 20-month baby bump that she had, and I looked at her and said, this child will never see his father.
Yeah.
And how will he turn out? He or she turn out later on. And that really impacted me. And the father later said, I bought a suit for my son.
For his wedding?
And for his wedding.
Yeah.
And I'll have to bury him.
Oh, boy.
And I'll tell you, that really hit me. One other case was, I was in charge of EMS for the District of Columbia.
Okay.
And we had a shooting in which one of our paramedics, picked up the victim, put him in the ambulance, drove down about 1,000 feet, and were stabilizing the victim. There was a knock on the back door. Somebody opened the back door. The same shooter shot the gun in and finished off that suspect, but also shot one of my paramedics and firefighters. I went to the trial, and later on I found out that where that gun came from. That gun was bought at a gun show in Missouri.
Okay.
And from some guys from Tennessee.
Okay.
They drove up to Missouri and got a handgun without any background checks. got it from Tennessee, got several guns.
Oh boy.
And then took them to the African American neighborhood in D.C., opened their trunk, and just sold those
sold
guns.
them right out there.
And that is what's happening when you don't have background checks. Police officers are getting killed. Firefighters, innocent children are getting killed by these gun traffickers.
Right.
And these instances, I think, give a poignant reason why we should advocate
for
gun
something.
safety.
Now you have I'll put it up here. You can tell us about what this is.
Yes, this is about the shooting at Sandy Hook.
Oh, yes.
Every Town is an organization that everybody should look up on their computers, the website, and join it. If you want to have a voice in background checks and supporting that and limiting the senseless mass gun violence and as well as the one-on-one gun violence, join a group like this and be an advocate for common sense gun safety in your neighborhood.
Because you're thinking if innocent little children at school doesn't jar you, getting gunned down by an active shooter, if that doesn't tug at your hearts, what will? It's like, if that doesn't do it, and that was not the pivotal thing that happened to get legislation, because we are still having the same debate.
Same debate every week. Orlando.
Yes.
All of these cities that we're seeing it. And ladies and gentlemen, it's not going to stop. There's an old saying that insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. If we don't intervene, we will not get different results.
And then you can't go to the movies without worrying about getting shot. You can't go to church. You can't send your children to school. If you party, you can't go to a nightclub. It's like there's no place is a safe place. You are always kind of thinking. I have a son that's going to be a freshman in college, and I have a concern sending him off to college, because I'm like, okay, I had the conversation. Well, so there's an active shooter. This is what you do, and we've had that. I've had to have that conversation with my son. It's like, there's something wrong with that.
Absolutely, and kids, having open guns and means open season too, because the police are going to be looking at you. We saw the shooting in Minnesota. He had an open carry and permit, but it still
makes the police edgy.
Exactly, and it allows you to utilize your gun in the spirit of or heat of the moment, so to speak.
And even there's a gentleman in Dallas, when that all happened, they put his picture up. He was carrying a firearm at the rally, and everybody thought he was the shooter, but he was not the shooter. He was just exercising his Second Amendment right to bear arms in this specific, in that situation. We are going to have to take another break. I know we're going to have another Dr. Eric Moore, your brother, is coming on to talk, and then we'll talk with both of you in our fourth segment. But thank you for talking about this very important segment on gun violence in America. You're watching the JoAnne Powell Show. We will be right back. Seize the Day Scuba for your best scuba experience above and below the sea. You'll find friendly staff, experienced PADI certified instructors, and state-of-the-art scuba equipment and gear. Join our dive club and we'll help you plan memorable scuba excursions. Immerse yourself. Seize the Day Scuba, serving Southern California. Call 949-220-0500 to create your scuba experience.
Are you a high school student thinking about going to college? Now's the time to get ready. Oakwood University will host Oakwood Live, October 5th to 9th, to give potential students a chance to experience life at Oakwood University. Oakwood Live is offered to high school seniors and potential transfer students. You could receive a $500 scholarship just for attending. Don't miss the excitement. Come see what Oakwood is all about. To register, visit oakwood.edu or call 256-726-7356.